This is Mrs. Fraser, and I'm going to be going over your Unit 6.1 test review. So let's start by matching the term to its definition. So number one, a measurement of central tendency found by finding the sum of the data and dividing by how many there are. This is my mean. Okay, another word to use for mean is average. Number two refers to the distance data is from a specific point. That would be my deviation. So another word that you may hear for distance is deviation. Number three, a graph that compares the relationship between two things, that's scatter plots. Number four, a trend of data that can be negative, positive, or nonlinear, that's correlation or association. Number five refers to the spread of data, that would be variability. And number six, a measurement of variability that measures the average distance data is from the mean. That's my mean absolute deviation. So what steps should you take when calculating mean absolute deviation? Well, number one, you should find the mean. Next, you should find the distances your data is from the mean. So find the distance each data point is from the mean. And then we want the average distance because that's what mean absolute deviation is. So number three, I'm going to find the average of the distances. So let's look at an example. Below are a list of shoe sizes taken from a random 8 students at SJH. Find the mean absolute deviation. Okay, so I'm going to take my numbers, I'm going to add them all up. And divide by how many there are so I can find the mean. Okay, so when I add them all up and I divide them, so I got 63.5 when I added them all up. I divided them by 8. I get 7.9375, so I might need to round that slightly. So I'm going to round that. My mean is 7.9. Okay, so now I need to find the distance that each of my values are from the mean. So I'm going to subtract 12 minus 7.9. That's 4.1. 7.9 minus 5, 2.9. 7.9 minus 6.5. That's 1.4. And I'm going to keep going until I find all of my distances from the mean. So go ahead and pause and find the rest of your distances. Okay, so now we have all of our distances from the mean. If you don't have them all, go ahead and jot those down. And now we want to add all of these together. So 4.1, 2.9, 1.4, 0.9, 0.1, 1.6, 3.6, and 3.9. And we want to add all these together and divide all of these by how many there are to find the average distance. Okay, so when I add them all up, I get 18.5. And when I divide by 8, my mean absolute deviation ends up being 2.31 approximately. And yours might be a little different than mine, but that's okay. Okay, so do you believe that the mean absolute deviation shows consistency for the data? Why or why not? So remember, we're looking for a small mean absolute deviation. So let's talk about what this means for this situation. So if I look at my mean, 7.9, that's almost a size 8 foot. 7.9 is my shoe size. So on average, students have a distance of 2.31 sizes away from 7.9. So I would say that our data is pretty consistent because the mean absolute deviation is relatively small. Number 3, according to the graph, approximately how many plants would grow if 500 seeds were planted? Okay, so looking at my graph, I can see that I have a positive trend. If I created a trend line for my data, I want to create it down the middle of my data. And if I look at 500, I can see that it would be somewhere along that trend line. So, you know, a little, maybe around 50, maybe a little bit above 50, maybe about 52, but somewhere around 52 plants. Number 4, draw and describe a scatter plot with a positive correlation or association. So I should draw a scatter plot that is increasing in pattern. Draw and describe a scatter plot with a negative correlation or association. So I should draw a scatter plot that is decreasing in a pattern. Draw and describe a scatter plot with a non-linear correlation or association. So in this case, I am drawing a scatter plot that maybe curves. So it might be increasing or decreasing, but it's not in a linear pattern. So it curves or has a pattern that cannot be followed with a line. Okay, number 7, draw and describe a scatter plot with no correlation. So this is when I can't see any sort of relationship between them. So it's scattered, no relationship between the data. Okay, number 8, which is the relationship shown by the scatter plot? As the speed increases, the time increases. So both are increasing. So if I look at my speed here, it is increasing, but my time on my graph is actually decreasing from top to bottom according to my graph. So I really do have a negative correlation here. So this is not correct. As the speed decreases, so speed is decreasing when I look to the left, the time decreases. Well, no, actually my time, if I look from this direction where my speed is decreasing, then actually the time is increasing, and it doesn't really make much sense because actually my speed is increasing over time. Okay, as the speed increases, the time decreases. So here's my speed, and my time is actually decreasing as my speed increases. So C is my correct answer. Number 9, compare the mean absolute deviations between the two sets of data. Which data would show more variability or spread? and which team shows more consistency in their data points scored. Okay, so go ahead and pause and find your mean absolute deviation of both data. Okay, so when I calculate the mean for Lakeside Panthers, I get 41. So I added all this up, divided by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I got 41. Then I found the distances. Each of those data points are from 41. I added these all up, and I divided by 6 again, and I got 7.7 for my mean absolute deviation. So for Jefferson Eagles, I got a mean of 56 from adding them all up and dividing by 6. Then I found my distance from 56. I added these all up, I divided by 6, and I got a mean absolute deviation of 10. For which team shows more consistencies? Consistency. I'm thinking about distance. Which one would be more spread out? Which one would be closer together? Well, if I have a smaller number, I have less distance, so my data is less spread out, meaning they are scoring closer to 41 each time. Okay, so Lakeside Panthers is less spread out. And therefore more consistent. Okay, below are 5 numbers, and that represent 5 different mean absolute deviations. Which mean absolute deviation will have the greatest spread or variability? So if I'm talking about distances, my greatest spread will be the greatest one. It's the largest distance, so it would be the greatest spread. Number 11, which is the correct way to draw a trend line on a scatter plot? It's not just above, it's not just below. Following the trend by connecting the points. We are not connecting the points, but we're going to follow the trend by drawing through the middle with approximately as many data points above the line as below the line. Okay, number 12, David invests $10,000 in a savings account that pays 3.5% simple interest. If David makes no withdrawals or deposits to the account, how much will be in the account after 7 years? Okay, so we have simple interest, so I need to calculate my interest. I equals PRT. So P is my principal of 10,000. R is my rate, it's 3.5%, but I'm going to divide by 100 to get my decimal of 0.035. And then T is my time, so 7 years. So in my calculator, I'll type 10,000 times 0.035 times 7. Okay, so for my interest, I get 2,450. But I want my total amount after 7 years. So he already had 10,000. And now he has $2,450. So I'm going to add the two together to get $12,450. Number 13, Audrey deposited $2,800 in a savings account that pays 2.65% interest compounded annually. What is the total value of the account after 7 years? Okay, so my compound interest is A equals P times 1 plus R to the power of T. So P is my principal, which is going to be 2,800. R is my rate, which will be 0.0265 as a percent. after we divide 2.65 by 100. And T is my time of 7 years. So in my calculator, I'll type 2,800 parentheses 1 plus 0.0265, and then make sure to raise it to the power of 7. Okay, so when all of that is typed in our calculator, we should get B. Number 14, tuition for 1 year at a state university is about $13,000. Devin would like to attend this university and will save money each month for the next 4 years. His parents will give him $5,200 or $5,200 for his first year of tuition. Which plan shows the minimum amount of money Devin must have to have enough money to pay for his first year of tuition. Okay, so he needs $13,000, but he's going to be given $5,200. So that's money he doesn't have to save. So we're going to subtract that away. And when I subtract that, I get 7,800. Okay, so this isn't my answer, but this is how much he needs to save. And he has the next 4 years to do so. And he's going to save each month. So in 4 years, there's 12 months in each year. I have 48 months, or 12 times 4. Okay, so I'm going to take 7,800 and divide it by 48 months. And when I do that, I get 162.50. So that's how much that his parents or that Devin needs to save until he leaves for college for each month. Okay, number 15, how are the following methods of payment similar and how are they different? Okay, so credit cards and debit cards are both cards. And same with a gift card. Okay. Gift cards only have a certain amount on them and are thrown away. So certain amount, typically thrown away. Some are reloadable, but typically thrown away. And they are a gift, so not your money. A debit card is your bank account, linked to your bank account. It can have some fees, okay, but it is your money. Where a credit card is borrowed money. It can have fees. It can have interest that you have to pay. And it can lead to debt. Okay, there could be a lot more things that you say there. Feel free to add some more. So cash is your money. It's not as convenient, but it can save you from overspending, and it's easier and safer to use in that sense. So no debt when you have cash. There's lots of other things, again, that you could write for each of these. Just make sure that you understand the differences between those and how one can benefit you and one can harm you.